Okay, I wanted to, before I talk a little bit about shame, I wanted to try to put in a little different way something I was trying to say right at the end. When you relate to a person that is not a liar, in an ultimate sense, it doesn't really matter whether you like them or not. When people who aren't liars are a little low on the gas tank in terms of feeling good about themselves, they might want your recognition, or they might think you have bad taste if you don't. But really, it's like you're free to like them or not like them. Once you say you like them and you get involved, you may go through feelings of disappointment if it doesn't work out. But in terms of just whether it's there or it isn't there, that's a free experience. And, we handle that in different ways. As I said, we either handle it by feeling, if you don't like me, it's your loss, or whatever the hell it is. But it isn't a big deal. It only becomes a big deal once you get involved. And you don't have that experience with a liar. If your life touches a liar, you are not free to like them or not, believe them or not, be loyal to them or not, or whatever. You must, or very major judgments are made of you. In other words, you have to deal with a liar. You're not free in relation to them. Okay, I want to talk to you now some about shame. Again, this is a concept that existential writers, most notably Sartre, have written beautifully about. And the most helpful discussion for me of shame is to be found in something I've cited to you many times, a book by Sartre, Being in Nothingness, and a section called The Look, which is the description of what happens in a man who thinks he's alone, sitting on a park bench on a sort of sunny Sunday afternoon. And it describes how the man, thinking he's alone, lets himself go and be himself in mind and body. And what happens to him in the moment that he hears a noise and looks and sees someone looking at him from behind a tree, and what happens to the man's body and mind in that moment when he realizes that someone who is a stranger is looking at him. And the essence of that experience is the experience of shame. What existential writers have done in helping us understand shame is to not get tripped up on the descriptive label and just to see it as something associated with guilt, something to be hidden, our sort of superficial understanding of what embarrassment and shyness and whatnot is. They have helped us understand the value of shame and shyness, and as a matter of fact, helped us understand that when most of us are feeling shame, we are most ourselves. Or when we feel shy, or disgusting, we are most ourselves. And what the understanding is about is this: to be completely vulnerable, without self-consciousness, which is our way of preventing other people from hurting us. And in that sense, the Eastern notion that all of Western psychology and Western constructs are illusions has a truth in it. That we think from concepts as a way to protect ourselves from being and total vulnerability. Because when we're vulnerable, we lose self-consciousness. We are not watching ourselves. We cannot see ourselves do what we do. When we are totally vulnerable, we express what I call our dignity, which is an expression of ourselves and our soul, our feelings, our person, our character, whatever word you'd like to choose. That is the essence of us. What we're born with, what our natural virtue and value is, elaborated by experience. But it is that thing that is essentially us. And there is something about the nature of soul and the ultimate expression of one's value, dignity, that makes it completely innocent in the sense that it doesn't get smart from experience and it's unprotected. It just is that beautiful quality, whatever those qualities are. And all of us have a dignity that has something in a feeling of it that has its own distinctive mark, depending on who you are as a person. And there's obviously nothing that we can do about our dignity. It is what it is. And it is an unprotected thing. When we are children, before we have learned to hate ourselves and learned that the world doesn't care, and often our parents don't, we tend to be open more of the time in more moments at that level, totally ourselves. Sometimes it's in the vehicle of play, sometimes it's just in relationships. I mean, most of us know that children are much more honest than the big kids. We're open at that level, hence we show our dignities when we are children. We show ourselves at that level, what our innocence is. And if you have parents that wanted you and respect that, when you are your dignity, they are deeply touched by that. And the expression of dignity and openness at that level brings you closer and closer together. When you don't express your dignity to people that care about you and that feel a relation to you, which most parents don't, because most of us were born for other reasons than that they wanted us and had something to give to us for a lifetime. And most persons don't care about us. When we show our dignity at that level, because dignity is such a deep and intense feeling and really calls for the other person to respond in kind, and because not only do most of those persons that we show it to not care, but they don't live at that level and don't want to show it at that level, they ignore our dignities, They criticize it, they laugh at it, they abuse it, they tease it, they take it lightly, they try to put it away. And to have someone criticize you, tease you, make fun of you when you are open at that level is to be ultimately hurt and injured. Because when you are open at the level of dignity, you have no defense. The only defense is always found after, when you withdraw. In other words, because it is in the definition of the experience of dignity that you're totally open without defense, the only way that you can protect it is in your instinctive, which psychologically and physically is a pulling back, a bringing around front, a concept of withdrawal and understanding that allows you to ward off, defend yourself against that hurt. But the hurt has been done when it's done at the level of dignity. When people hurt us when we are self-conscious, defensive, neurotic, we aren't hurt at that level because we aren't that vulnerable. And that, of course, is the smart way to live, to never be open at the level of dignity. Now, if you, which is the case with most persons, have in your early experience in your life found that when you were open at that level, you made people mad, they ignored you, they got uncomfortable, they got irritated with you, they got embarrassed, they felt shame, they got shy, you come to experience the moment when you are most yourself with that feeling quality. You learn it. So that when you are most yourself, hence most beautiful, most people experience themselves as embarrassed and embarrassing, as humiliated, as shy. And because we have not been taught to value those emotions, that then becomes a further thing that we must hide from other people. Namely, we can not only get into situations where we'll feel shame, and I'm using now shame here to embrace all of these other emotions. I'm using it as a generic poetic expression for all of the many ways that people feel total vulnerability other than joy. We come to not only not want to feel shame, but now we don't want anyone to see the signs of our beginning shame, from whence comes the whole thing of I've got to keep people from seeing my anxiety, wipe my hands before I shake hands to somebody, and if they sweat too much, there are people that get surgery on the nerves that feed the sweat glands so that nobody will feel their shame, i.e. realness. If I get red splotches on my neck, I always wear turtlenecks. Whatever it is, I have to keep people from seeing me in my shame, i.e. beauty. But we don't see it that way. We see the splotches and the anxiety and the stuttering that we do. Incidentally, stuttering is often associated with this experience of shame and realness. From incidentally what comes, the phenomena that most stutterers find it hardest to say their name because their name is real. And the experience is that we know that stuttering is largely a diagnostogenic disorder. Namely, it started with parents who said, stop stuttering. Think before you talk. Don't don't show your realness. Don't show your shame. You embarrass me. And if talk gets invaded with that, we can't talk. Because to talk is to be real. Now, the experience of shame can be used to understand many different things. Some of you that are with me in my course on loneliness and specialness will see it developed a little different way, but I want to talk about it now in relation to lying. See, one thing you could say in summary is that shame is by its nature, because of the nature of the world, a very special and beautiful thing. And our shame is our experience of ourselves when we are most real and ourselves, whatever the particular experience of shame is. But it's a sad thing, as a comment on life and the karma, that we have to experience ourselves in that way. So it's a beautiful, at once beautiful, and yet it's sad that it's that way. And incidentally, there isn't very much that you can do, even if you love yourself and work with yourself for years and are loved, to change whatever your experience of beauty is. It's so formed by early experience that it doesn't change itself much at all. And that doesn't say something's wrong with you. That after working with yourself for years, you're still shy. Okay, enough about that. All right. Okay. You can see then, it's an implication of what I've talked about, that the whole function of the development of role, neurosis, pose, style, in a superficial sense of style,